Spring high water put that log up on there, and this is how much it's dropped over the course of the summer and fall. Welcome back to the channel there. Glad to see you came back for some more adventure, real life adventure. That's all we do here. No AI slop. This was all human generated, real experience. No CGI. I think people value that, you know? I think people are burned out on the whole Marvel superheroes and bullshit reality show thing. I think that as AI becomes more prevalent, authenticity is going to be more important. So if there's no production value in this video, if my wife comes in and the dog starts barking, that's because this is all real. And everything we talk about on here is real. And I hope you enjoy that. That's what we're going to strive to present and protect for you. Spontaneity, imagination, like this trip right here. But I got to be honest with you, this isn't exactly what we want to see. If you look at the moving water, you can see there's sugar on the top. That's like an icy, like a slush. And you can see where it's starting to ice up here close to the shoreline by our boats. This is not ideal conditions for moving the last 30 miles out of this canyon. The backstory is, in 2020, I had met my future wife, but she lived on the other side of the ocean, so we were waiting to actually meet in person. But that's another story. This story is about what I was doing when I got so bored. The year before, I had gone on my first whitewater trip with this fella named Squat. Todd Nelson's his real name, but everybody calls him Squat. And he is an adventurous soul. And I had a great time. So good a time that in the summer of 2020, when I was bored to death waiting on the borders to open, I called Squat and I said, "Hey man, y'all going on that hunting trip again this November?" "We sure are." "You think I could get a seat on a boat?" He said, "My boat's empty, just you and me, Taylor, let's go." So I met him in Salmon to fly in. That's what you do. The water's kind of low, so you fly into the halfway point, which is a little dirt airstrip at Loon Creek. You fly into Loon Creek and you whitewater the last 50 miles. And you pull off, you set up camps, and you go hunt the mountains on either side of the river. And there's hardly anybody there, needless to say, who goes whitewatering in November. And I knew something was wrong when I got to Salmon because I had a message on my phone. Todd said, "We need to meet a day early. We need to meet a day early and catch a flight backcountry before the storms come in." The logic of it hit me first, and then the hesitation. Well, wait a minute. Why would we go in before the storm? It seems like we'd wait till that mess was finished before we inflated our rafts and started going down the river. But no. We had X amount of time and we needed to use every day. That's an adventurer's attitude, and Squat is nothing if not an adventurer. So I met him and we loaded everything up. We brought plenty. We knew we might be stationary, so we bought plenty of provisions. And we flew into the backcountry. We assembled all our gear. We floated to our normal first stop at Cave Camp. And the next morning, the boys got up and took off to go hunting. They might be gone a day or two. Squat and I were less concerned with the hunting. We were more into the river experience, so we just kind of hung out at camp and enjoyed the great outdoors. And the next morning I got up to 6 inches of snow. Well, if you live in Idaho, you see snow, but not normally on your raft. Most people who do the whitewater do it when there is no snow. But this time, our spontaneity got the best of us. So Todd and I cleaned things up and recalibrated. This trip was going to be different than anything we'd experienced before. We were going to have to be on our toes. The boys came in a couple days later. We went down the river, looked for another camp, set up another camp, repeated the hunting thing, and the wind got heavier. The snow got thicker. Conditions got a little less comfortable. And I can even say the mood got a little heavier. Hard to move around when the snow is blowing sideways. Hard to get comfortable when you're sleeping on the snow. And I could like to say things got better, but they didn't. Things got worse. A couple of days after that, we woke up to find ice in the river. I don't mean a little bit of ice. You didn't have to look hard for it. It was everywhere. There was snow on the rocks. There was ice haloing out from the stones protruding from the water. And the ice was thick around the snows where it adhered to the stones, but it got thin, almost knife edge as it got further away. And that, of course, is the part that you'd hit first with your inflated rubber raft. And if that ice were to cut a big old gash in the side of that raft, why, that raft would lose its air and sink and you'd be stuck. Which is a problem anytime, but especially in November, and especially on the Middle Fork. You see, as you go down the Middle Fork, you reach the Impassable Canyon. The last 20 miles floats through what they call the Impassable Canyon. And they call it that because it's impassable. Once you get in there, the only way out is the river. The canyon walls are so steep and so tall, if you had climbing gear and you knew how to use it, maybe you could get out, but not with ice and snow hanging everywhere. It was rotten rock. The only way out is the river. But the river was freezing, and you can't float on a frozen river. Even if it's moving, it's kind of dangerous, right? Because those ice rings around the rocks will hit the side of that raft and cut it. And now what are you going to do? What are you going to do? It was a sobering morning as we sat watching the river freeze, wondering what we could do if it did. That, my friends, is adventure. Those are the moments that will test a man's mettle. That's when I found out what kind of partner I had in squat. The best kind of partner. Because the truth is, it was more amusing than anything. Very uncomfortable. You can't imagine how cold it was, especially when Squat's air mattress ran out of air. He was especially cold that day. But we talked about it. We came up with a plan or two, things we could do if the river froze. But I don't think deep down any of us thought it would stay frozen. So we stuck it out. We planted ourselves where we were. We ate well, did a little drinking. And sure enough, the next day, you could see the ice was not floating down the river. The mashed potato mix was gone. There were still halos of ice on some of the rocks, but the path looked a little more clear. So we chanced it. We loaded up and floated into the Impassable Canyon.
That's the plan.
Going left?
We're going to go left. There's a big rock on the left side. What's that? I don't remember the rapid.
Go left or right at the rock. I guess there are 12 or 14 sets of class 3 and 4 whitewater in there. Not as violent when the water's low, but still dangerous, still challenging. And when you're in freezing cold water, it's even more difficult. But we managed. And as every mile passed, I can say that our trepidation turned to joy. The spontaneity of success, the revelry in having passed through the storm and come out the other side, triumphant, in fact. Those are the kind of things that make those adventures worthwhile. They make the risks worth taking, because here we are 6 years later, and I'm still talking about this adventure. And every time I see Squat, we talk about our experience on the frozen Middle Fork. And that's why you have adventure in your life. I don't mean watching an adventure movie. I don't mean binging Netflix. No, I mean having an actual adventure, a human experience, something on the edge, not the day-to-day routine, but something that gets your blood going, gets your mind thinking, gets you excited about being alive. That's what this channel is about. I'm going to try to share all the adventures I can with you in a way that will be entertaining and interesting and even motivating. My hope to motivate you to put some adventure in your life. I hope you have an idea. If you do, share it with me. If not me, share it with your friends. Find somebody to go do something cool with. And if you can't find anybody, do it yourself. You're fully capable. There's so many cool things to do in this world. Grab one that appeals to you and ride it like a pony. And if you have a hard time with any of that, then drop me a line, man. Say something in the comments. Get a conversation going. You know, an idea on paper, in conversation, has a better chance of becoming reality than one that just left back there to rattle around. Thanks for the time. I hope you enjoyed this. And there's going to be more coming. You can count on that. See you later.